Don't smile. Horror story. It all started with a smile. Not the kind you give a stranger at the supermarket. Not the polite curl of lips you offer when you don't know what else to say. This smile was something different. Something wrong. Something that stuck in your mind long after you'd seen it. The first time I noticed it was at the bus stop. It was a cold evening in October, the kind where the air burns your lungs and your fingertips feel like brittle glass. The lamplight flickered above the bench, throwing long, broken shadows on the cracked sidewalk. There was a man standing a few feet away, dressed in a tattered coat. His eyes were hollow, sunk deep into bruised sockets, but what drew me in, what unsettled me, was his smile. It was stretched too wide, thin lips pulled back over yellowed teeth. Not once did it falter. He just stood there, smiling at nothing. I thought maybe he was high, or insane. But then he turned. His gaze locked on mine. The smile never broke. My chest tightened as if his eyes had gripped something inside me. When the bus finally screeched up, I scrambled aboard, not daring to glance back. But as the bus pulled away, I looked out the window. He was still there, watching, smiling, like he had been waiting for me to notice. That night, I couldn't shake it. I lay awake in my apartment, shadows crawling across the ceiling. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. That impossible smile, stretched too far, carved into my brain. At 2:47 a.m., I heard it. A knock, 3 slow raps at the door. I froze. My building was locked, the front gate chained shut at night. Nobody could get in without a key. I told myself it was a dream, a trick of exhaustion. But then it came again, 3 deliberate knocks, each one louder than the last. I tiptoed toward the door, heart pounding. I didn't open it. I couldn't. But as I pressed my eye to the peephole, my stomach turned to ice. He was there. The man from the bus stop. That same stretched, inhuman smile plastered across his face. He didn't blink. He didn't speak. He just stood in the hallway, grinning at my door. I stumbled back, covering my mouth to stifle a scream. My phone was in my hand before I realized it, dialing 911 with shaking fingers, but the line never connected. Just static. The knocking stopped. When I finally dared to look again, the hallway was empty. The next morning, I convinced myself it was stress. I'd been working double shifts at the diner, barely sleeping, living off caffeine and sugar. Maybe my brain had cracked under the weight of exhaustion, but then I saw her. I was serving coffee when the bell above the diner door chimed. A woman walked in, pale as chalk, her long hair hanging like wet strands over her shoulders. She slid into a booth near the back, and she smiled. Not at me, not at anyone in particular, just at the wall. Her lips stretched impossibly wide, frozen in the exact same grin as the man from the bus stop. I dropped the coffee pot. Glass shattered across the tiles, hot liquid burning my ankles. The sound didn't faze her. She just sat there, smiling. I couldn't breathe. My chest rose and fell in frantic bursts as I stumbled into the kitchen, clutching the counter to stay upright. When I looked back through the pass window, the booth was empty. That night, I dreamt of them, the man and the woman, standing at the foot of my bed, smiling, always smiling. Their mouths stretched wider and wider until the skin split at the corners, blood dripping down their chins. Still, they smiled. When I jolted awake, drenched in sweat, my bedroom window was open. I live on the 5th floor. The next week blurred into a nightmare. They were everywhere. On the subway, in the grocery store, across the street from my building. Men, women, children, all with that same impossible grin. They never spoke, never blinked, just stared and smiled. I started staying inside. Curtains drawn, doors locked, but even then I wasn't safe. I'd hear them outside my door at night, sometimes scratching, sometimes knocking, always smiling. One night I made the mistake of calling my friend, Lucas. He was the only one I trusted enough to tell. His laugh was sharp, nervous, but he agreed to come over. When he arrived, I nearly collapsed in relief. His presence made the apartment feel safer, less oppressive. I poured him a drink, explained everything. He listened, nodded, and then slowly he began to smile. At first I thought it was sympathy, or maybe disbelief. But his lips kept curling, stretching, twisting into that same grotesque grin. His eyes watered as the skin tore at the corners of his mouth, but still he smiled. "Don't you see?" he whispered through clenched teeth. "It's beautiful," I screamed. Lucas lunged. I don't remember much after that. Just blood, my hands covered in it, his body twitching on the floor. His face still smiling even after his eyes had glazed over. I ran, out of the apartment, down the stairs, into the freezing night, and that's when I saw them, hundreds of them, lining the street, filling the sidewalks, faces tilted toward me, lips stretched wide, teeth gleaming under the flickering streetlights, all smiling, all waiting. And then, in perfect unison, they spoke the first words I had ever heard from them. Don't smile. The words hung in the air like poison. Don't smile. The chorus of voices rose in perfect unison, yet none of their lips moved. Their teeth gleamed in the moonlight, exposed in grotesque grins, but the sound came from everywhere at once, above me, behind me, inside my head. My knees nearly buckled as the crowd pressed closer. I turned and ran. The city had never felt so alien. The neon lights buzzed overhead, flickering like dying stars, casting the streets in a strobe of color and shadow. Every face I passed, every stranger leaning against a lamppost or standing in a shop window, wore that same hideous grin. They didn't chase me. They didn't need to. Wherever I ran, they were already there. By the time I stumbled into the subway station, my lungs were burning. I vaulted the turnstile and bolted down the steps, praying the train would save me. It was empty. The platform stretched out like a tomb, silent except for the distant hum of electricity. I collapsed onto a bench, my chest heaving, sweat stinging my eyes. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd escaped. Then the train screeched into the station. The doors slid open with a hiss, and I froze. The car was full. Dozens of passengers sat inside, still as statues, every one of them smiling. The air grew heavy, pressing down on me. Their eyes fixed on mine as one by one, they tilted their heads in unison. Don't smile, the voices whispered. I stumbled back, nearly falling onto the tracks. The ground vibrated beneath me, the sound of another train approaching. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I leapt into the tunnel, sprinting down the tracks as the train's headlights blazed behind me. When I finally clawed my way out of the subway, I was half dead. My clothes were torn, my arms streaked with cuts from the concrete walls. I collapsed in an alley, gasping for air. That's when I saw her. A girl, maybe 12, standing at the far end of the alley. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow. And she was smiling, but this time was different. Her lips trembled as though the smile hurt. Blood trickled from the corners of her mouth where the skin had split. She shook her head violently, tears streaking down her cheeks. And then, in a voice cracked and desperate, she whispered, "Run." Before I could move, something yanked her backward into the shadows. She didn't scream. She didn't fight. Just vanished, leaving the alley empty. I didn't wait to see what had taken her. For days I wandered. I didn't eat. I barely slept. Every time I thought I was alone, I'd see them. Smiling faces in windows, behind counters, in cars that slowed as they passed me, always smiling. Always watching, I stopped answering my phone, stopped checking the news. Whatever this was, it wasn't normal. It wasn't human. And no one else seemed to notice. Or maybe everyone else had already joined them. One night I found myself in front of a church. The heavy wooden doors were cracked open, a faint glow spilling into the street. Desperate for some kind of sanctuary, I stumbled inside. The church was nearly empty. Just one man sat in the front pew, hunched over, his shoulders shaking. "A priest, Father," I rasped, my voice broken. "Please, you have to help me." Slowly, he turned, and he smiled. But it wasn't the smile I had come to fear. His lips quivered, teeth clenched as though resisting something inside him. Blood dripped down his chin as his mouth tore wider. His hands clutched the Bible, knuckles white. "They told me not to smile," he croaked. "But it doesn't matter. They get inside you. They make you wear it." I stumbled backward. "What are they?" He slammed the Bible shut, his body trembling violently. "Demons, parasites, I don't know. But once you see them, once you understand the smile, it never leaves. They won't let you stop." His head snapped to the side as if jerked by invisible strings. His lips tore wider, blood pouring down his throat. And then, in a voice not his own, he whispered, "Don't smile." I fled the church. The streets blurred around me. My chest burned, my vision swimming with tears. Every face was smiling now. Every single one. The entire city. That night I dreamt again. I was standing in front of a mirror, my reflection grinning back at me. I tried to scream, tried to shatter the glass, but my lips were already curling upward. My teeth bared themselves without my control, stretching into a grotesque rictus. I woke with my jaw aching, my lips split open. My pillow was soaked with blood. I had been smiling in my sleep. By the 5th day, I was unraveling. My face ached constantly, my muscles twitching as though something inside me was fighting to take control. I taped my mouth shut at night. I wore a mask during the day, but it wasn't enough. The pressure built behind my lips, a constant need to grin to show my teeth. It was suffocating. I couldn't fight it much longer, so I decided to end it. I filled the bathtub, water cold as ice, and climbed in fully clothed. My wrists shook as I held the knife above the surface. And then I saw it, the reflection in the water. Not me, not exactly. It was my face, but smiling. The grin spread wider and wider, splitting the skin, revealing teeth too sharp, too many. Its eyes glowed faintly, hollow pits burning with hunger. It leaned forward in the reflection, even though I hadn't moved, and then slowly, it whispered from the rippling water, "Don't smile." The knife clattered to the floor. I screamed until my throat tore raw. That night, I packed a bag and ran, out of the city, into the countryside. Miles of empty roads and silent fields stretched before me. I thought maybe, just maybe, I could escape. But as I passed through a small town, I saw them, farmers leaning against fences, children in yards, old women staring from porches, all smiling. Everywhere I went, the smiles followed. It wasn't just the city. It was everywhere. I wasn't running from them. I was running from the world. I don't remember when I stopped keeping track of the days. The world had blurred into one endless nightmare. Every town I passed through, every back road, every lonely gas station, the faces were all the same, smiling, silent, watching. I avoided mirrors. I avoided people. I avoided everything. Still, the pressure in my face grew stronger each day, tugging at my lips, pulling at my muscles. I could feel it inside me now, creeping like rot beneath my skin. It wanted me to smile. I reached a small roadside motel one night, desperate for sleep. The clerk didn't ask questions. He didn't speak at all. He just handed me the key with that horrible grin. His eyes followed me as I climbed the stairs. The room was damp and reeked of mildew, but it was a place to hide. I locked the door, pushed the dresser against it, and curled up on the stained mattress. For a while, the silence almost felt safe, until the phone rang. I froze. The dusty landline on the nightstand buzzed, its shrill ring cutting through the darkness. My hands trembled as I picked it up, pressing it to my ear. Static. And then, a voice. "Don't smile." I threw the phone across the room. It shattered against the wall, but the sound didn't stop. The words kept whispering, crawling through the static, echoing inside my skull. I stumbled into the bathroom, slamming the door shut. My reflection stared back at me from the cracked mirror above the sink, and it smiled. Not me, not anymore. Its grin stretched from ear to ear, lips tearing, blood dribbling down its chin. Its eyes were wide, unblinking, alive with something I didn't recognize. And then, it moved. My reflection leaned closer, pressing its palms against the glass, its grin splitting wider and wider until the jaw unhinged like a snake's. I stumbled backward, screaming as the mirror began to crack. Hairline fractures spiderwebbed across the surface, spreading outward from its teeth. And then, with a sharp snap, the glass split, a hand slid through, pale, skeletal fingers clawed at the air, dripping with black ichor. The reflection was pulling itself out. I didn't wait to see it fully emerge. I bolted from the bathroom, grabbed my bag, and hurled myself out the window into the night. I don't remember how long I ran. Hours, maybe days. My body was on autopilot, my mind unraveling. By the time I collapsed on the side of the highway, the sky was already bleeding into dawn. That's when I met her. A woman pulled up in an old pickup truck, her headlights blinding me. She leaned out the window, her face shadowed by the rising sun. "You okay?" she asked. Her lips weren't smiling. For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. I climbed into the truck, my voice breaking as I begged her to drive. She didn't ask questions. She didn't look at me with pity or suspicion. She just drove. For hours, we sat in silence, The road stretched on endlessly, the world falling away behind us. Finally, she spoke. "You've seen them, haven't you?" My blood ran cold. "The smiles?" She nodded. Her knuckles tightened on the steering wheel. "They're not people. Not anymore. Once you notice them, once they know you've seen, they never let you go. Then why aren't you?" I couldn't finish the sentence. I couldn't bring myself to ask. She glanced at me, her eyes sharp, hard. "Because I don't smile." The words lingered in the cab like smoke. Don't smile. That was the rule. The only rule. She took me to a farmhouse far from the road, hidden in the woods. The windows were boarded, the doors reinforced with steel. Inside, a handful of others waited, men, women, even children. All of them pale, exhausted, terrified. None of them smiled. They welcomed me with wary eyes, explained in hushed tones what I had already begun to suspect. The smilers. They called them parasites, shadows, demons. No one knew for sure. They slipped into our world through faces, through mirrors, through something older than memory. Once you saw the smile, you were marked, and if you ever smiled back, even for a second, they had you. That night we sat in a circle around a single candle, whispering prayers none of us truly believed in. Outside in the woods I could see them. Dozens of pale faces pressed against the glass, grinning into the dark. They never tried to break in. They didn't need to. They were patient. I stayed with them for weeks. We scavenged during the day, moving quickly, avoiding strangers. At night we huddled in silence, praying the smiles wouldn't find their way inside. But it was only a matter of time. One by one they broke. The youngest was first, a boy no older than 6. He woke one morning with blood on his pillow, his lips torn at the corners. By the time we realized what was happening, it was too late. His grin stretched wide and he whispered the words in a voice not his own. "Don't smile." We had to hold him down. His mother screamed until her voice shattered, but we all knew what had to be done. By the end of the week, half of us were gone. I couldn't stay. I left in the middle of the night, the woman from the truck begging me not to, but I couldn't watch another face twist into that impossible grin. I couldn't hear another voice whisper the words that haunted me. I walked until my legs gave out. I found myself standing on the edge of a bridge, water churning black beneath me. For the first time, I considered ending it all. Better to die by my own choice than to let them take me. But then I saw it. My reflection in the water. Smiling, its lips moved, whispering without sound, and this time I understood. It wasn't telling me not to smile. It was mocking me, commanding me. Smile. The word pounded in my skull, over and over, until my jaw ached, until the corners of my lips twitched. My muscles spasmed as if strings were pulling them taut, and then, against every shred of will I had left, I smiled. The world split open. The water roared louder than thunder. The air grew thick, heavy, alive. Shadows poured across the bridge, writhing like serpents, twisting into shapes that almost resembled faces. All of them grinning, and I understood. They weren't outside. They never had been. They were inside us. Every grin I'd seen, every twisted face, it wasn't them at all. It was us. The smiles were the mask they wore to hollow us out, and now they had me. My lips tore wider, splitting until blood streamed down my chin. My eyes burned as the world bent, twisted, folded in on itself. I could feel them crawling under my skin, behind my eyes, inside my throat. They didn't need to chase me. I had let them in. When I woke, I was lying on the sidewalk back in the city. The streets were empty. The lights flickered overhead, and everyone I passed smiled at me, because I was one of them now. I don't fight it anymore. I can't. All I can do is smile and wait for you to notice.